We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
Good morning. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. I'm your host, Joshua Lane, the Wellness Radio Show. We are going to have Kelly Wright, the author of The Benjamin Franklin Diet. Now, there's an interesting title, The Benjamin Franklin Diet. Kelly Wright written a number of books, and this one talks about Benjamin Franklin, who was one of the founding fathers of the United States and signed the Declaration of Independence, known as a printer and inventor, and also worked with food as a healing tool as a young man. Those of us who are interested in food and know the value of food for good health, this is not a new concept. People have always been interested in the subject of food and how it relates to good health. And Benjamin Franklin was also very much involved with food and was able to learn from various people he met along the way. And one of the things that is actually very interesting about Benjamin Franklin was he learned as a young man the idea of moderation. And also, he did not drink alcohol. Well, he may have drank a little bit of alcohol, but he really drank very little alcohol. And he came to realize very early on that alcohol was problematic and not very good for our health. As a matter of fact, there was so much alcohol consumed in colonial America. People would drink literally alcohol, ale, we call beer, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they also drank cider, which was alcohol. They drank alcohol with every meal, and they drank large quantities, partially because there was no water system in the cities. So Franklin, of course, was in London in the 1760s, and he was in the United States in Philadelphia, what we call the city of Philadelphia today, after that, of course. And Philadelphia had no municipal water system, nor did Boston, nor did New York. So there was no fresh water. Kelly Wright, are you there?
Sure. Hello.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
Hi, Kelly. This is Josh Lane with the radio show Here's to Your Health. Thanks very much for calling in. I've just been chatting with the listeners about your new book, The Benjamin Franklin Diet. Kelly, can you tell us what motivated you to write a book about wellness citing Benjamin Franklin?
Oh, well, I know it's kind of funny. What happened was I turned 40, like we all do eventually, and I put on about 20 pounds, and I needed to lose some weight. And I had always previously done low carbohydrate diets because that had worked for me, but I knew that that wasn't healthy long term to eat meat and cheese and fat and a lot of food like that. I wanted to eat something with more grains and all that. And I remembered in Benjamin Franklin's autobiography that he had said a few things about nutrition, particularly about eating whole grains. And so I went back to that book and I started reading it, and I was really surprised to find just how many references he made to food and nutrition. And as I read not only his autobiography but his collective works, I discovered all these sort of themes that he lived by, and I started following it. The weight came off, and that's how it all began.
Well, that sounds good. And for the listeners today, can you please give us put Benjamin Franklin in historical context?
Benjamin Franklin, the founding father of our country, the inventor of many, many things, and he's least known for his nutritional advice. Hopefully he'll be a little more well known for that now once the book is, now that the book is out.
And what were his years of activity?
I'm sorry?
What were his years of activity?
Oh, well, he lived to be 84 years old in a time where the average American lived to be, was only 42 years old, so he outlived the average guy by double. and he enjoyed good health throughout the majority of his life. And he credited that to his diet.
And he lived in the 18th century.
Yes, yes.
And what are some of the principles that Franklin wrote about that he used?
Well, one of the main principles I found is eat to live, don't live to eat. And Benjamin Franklin definitely lived by that principle. I've heard him referred to as a foodie. He definitely wasn't a foodie. He was kind of an anti-foodie. He believed in eating what you need to fill your stomach, give yourself the proper nutrition, and getting on with life. He was a very busy man, and he said because of the way he was brought up, there wasn't a lot of attention put on the food on the dinner table. Dinner time in the Franklin house when he was growing up was a time to discuss important family matters and news and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And also, I was mentioning to the listeners, Franklin himself was a very moderate and at many times a non-drinker of alcoholic beverages. How important were alcoholic beverages to the colonists in the 18th century here in the United States?
Yeah, well, back then, clean water was hard to come by, especially in the cities, and people drank alcohol. They drank rum, they drank cider, they drank ale, and they actually believed it was good for them. They didn't realize that it was harming them. They drank in great quantities, not just adults, teenagers, and even children. And Benjamin Franklin believed he went out of his way to find clean water and to boil water if needed to kill any germs in it, because he found that he was more successful and could study better when he was sober and not walking around in a stupor like everybody else back then.
And at that time, we all know what we know about wellness based on our time. And at the time, men drank strong spirits, that is, different types of strong alcohol, because they thought it gave them strength. Is that not true?
Yeah, that is true. They believed that the stronger the spirits, the more physical strength it would give you. But when Franklin was working in a printing house, they served ale to the workers all day long, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and every break in between. And Franklin decided to drink just water. And the guys explained to him that, no, the stronger alcohol you drink, the more strength you'll have. And he said, well, watch this. And he drank water and was twice as strong as these guys. And,
Mm-hmm. So,
he believed it was only proportionate to the amount of grain that was in the alcohol, the amount of strength he would get.
Right. And also, being in the United States, he was a user and recommended eating corn, did he not?
Yes, he recommended eating corn. He believed that corn is a very, very healthful food. And the English poo-pooed that, and they made fun of corn. They said it was indigestible, that it was no good, that it was feed for the animals, and he proved them wrong and came up with many delightful recipes for corn, and found that it was quite healthful. Also, he observed that the American Indians ate a lot of corn in their diet, and he found that they were very healthful. They weren't sick often. When they were wounded, they recovered quickly, and they had lots of energy and strength.
And also, Franklin, living near Philadelphia or in Philadelphia, what was the role of eating fish in the Franklin regime or in the colonists' diet of the time?
Well, they did eat a lot of fish. That was definitely a staple in the diet. And at one point, Benjamin Franklin decided to go vegetarian. He came across a vegetarian cookbook and decided to cut even the fish out of his diet as a money-saving measure more than, vegetarian kind of a thing. But, yeah, he believed in eating fish and found that they were great. Good nutrition.
Yes, because historically, humans have always been big fish consumers, big eaters of fish, and humans have many times lived near the coast. Obviously, Philadelphia is near the coast because the climate's more moderate, and fish has always been in abundance in the diet of Europeans and Africans and Native Americans, and so fish was widely used by Franklin as well. Was there any discussion? Now, you used the word vegetarian, but that was not a term that existed in Franklin's time, did it?
They called it a vegetable diet at that time. There actually was a cookbook written by an author named Thomas Tryon, and he advocated eating a diet of vegetable and dairy only, with, no meat at all, not even fish. And Benjamin Franklin was looking for a way to save money when he was working for his brother, because he didn't have enough money from his printer's assistant salary to buy books, which was his favorite thing in the world. So he cut out all of the meat out of his diet using Thomas Tryon's cookbook and recipes, and found that he was able to save enough money to buy books. And the other benefit he noticed from cutting out the beef and the pork from his diet, he thought that his comprehension was better. He could study better, and he was retaining the information. So from there on out, he ate a diet mainly of whole grains and vegetables, with meat used more as a garnish than the main dish. He kept his meat consumption light for the most part.
Mm-hmm. He used the meat more as a condiment rather than as the bulk of the meal, which most of the Europeans and colonists did at that time. And one thing about the vegetarian terminology, I believe at the time, the term vegetarian had not been coined. Those people in those days were called Pythagoreans. I believe that was the term. Certainly in the United States, around 1800, the term was Pythagorean. I'm not sure if it existed before 1800.
Okay, yeah, that may be correct.
Are you familiar with the work of Sylvester Graham, the Presbyterian minister and temperance reformer and abolitionist and women's rights advocate who wrote books on wellness for the American audience in the early part of the 19th century?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you bumped across him in your work with Franklin.
No, I didn't.
Okay. And going back to Ben Franklin, so besides the use of grain and the use of much more fresh water, although at the time people didn't understand how water could be contaminated with bacteria, but there was a problem with fresh water supply. So what else did Franklin learn and then teach?
Well, he promoted, of course, little alcohol consumption, and he believed that eating grain brought health and vigor. Mm-hmm. He also believed in eating only enough to fill your stomach, which is really interesting. He found that if you don't overfill your stomach, you don't overeat, then everything will sort of work out naturally. You'll be healthy, you'll be at the right weight, you'll feel good, and things are going to go the way they should. And he believed in filling the stomach. Now, one of the things I talk about in the book is how much food you actually need to fill your stomach. Mm-hmm. And we overeat so much. All it really takes is if you take your two fists, and you make two loose fists, that's enough food, that's enough volume to fill the average adult stomach. So the diet is based on having meals that are pint-sized, which is about the size of two fists. And he believed in, not overeating. Mm-hmm. If you consistently eat just enough to fill your stomach at a meal, your stomach is going to shrink back down to its normal size, and it'll take less food to get that feeling of being full, and you'll eat less.
Well, one thing you mentioned in your book is that Benjamin Franklin, because he, from our perspective, was a careful eater and really liked to work, believed in the value of work, and Franklin himself, as a young man up until possibly his 70s, was not the big heavy guy we see photos of today. Not photos, but paintings rather of. But he was actually a man of slim build. He was a big, strong guy, but he was very slim. Is that not so?
Yeah, that's true, and I should have cleared that up when I first came on, because that's usually the first question people ask me. They say, "Wasn't Benjamin Franklin a big fat guy?" And I say, "Well, actually, he wasn't." And the portrait that we used for the cover of the book is a portrait of Benjamin Franklin when he was about 45 years old, and at the time he was a successful businessman in Philadelphia. And he's tall, he's trim, looks beautiful. He looks perfectly normal. And it wasn't until later in life, when he was in his 70s and he was over in France securing the support of the French in the Revolutionary War, that he started eating the French cuisine and started putting on weight because of decreased activity and, of course, increased calories.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of familiar with those portraits of him later in life. But when he was, in his 40s, 50s, 60s, he was actually tall and trim.
And because Benjamin Franklin was a man of his time, 18th century, were there any ideas that you ran across that were widely held as far as health at the time that in retrospect seem, obviously incorrect?
Yeah, I think that, at the time, what he talks about, the colonists believed in, they came from England, and their diet was very heavy and meat and fat combined with sugar and pastries and sweets as well as alcohol. And I think that kind of a diet, it's believed that the average colonist ate 5,000 calories a day. It's that kind of a diet that I think contributed to a lot of sickness and disease at the time. And, people thought it was healthy, but as it turned out, the life expectancy was only 42 years old back then.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was probably a misconception they had about what to eat.
And also I remember Benjamin Rush, one of the he was a physician, an influential American who signed the Declaration of Independence, as did Franklin. Benjamin Rush believed, as was widely held, that night air was very bad for us, and that at night people would sleep with their windows shut and bolted because they thought night air was dangerous. Did you run across Franklin having a statement on that?
Yes, I did, actually. I didn't write about it in the book, but he took what he called air baths at night, and he would open up all the windows, and he would take off all his clothes, and he would walk around naked and let the air circulate in the room and all around him, and he believed that was very helpful thing to do.
Now, we might find that amusing today, but at the time, that would have been seen as a progressive idea on healthcare, because the average person thought, no, the night air is bad, and they shut the windows at night to keep out that night air.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, he was ahead of his time.
No, he was obviously ahead of his time. So would you say that really, from our perspective today, that one of the things that Franklin was really completely correct about was really his opposition to the consumption of alcohol?
I think so. He did drink. He drank alcohol occasionally. When he did drink, he was temperate with it. As far as the mass consumption of alcohol and having it at every meal and all the time, I think that he was absolutely correct. That you don't want to drink like that. But he did occasionally have wine and spirits, but he didn't believe in getting to the point where you're drunk.
And the consumption and the overconsumption of alcohol in colonial America was a serious health problem that was reported on by many authors and clergymen of the day. And did Franklin in any way participate in that debate? The idea of later term was temperance, but did he participate at all in the be careful of alcohol movement, to give that term to it?
I don't know that he was part of that movement. I know he just wrote about it in his autobiography, talking about working in the ale house and how he talked about that, his days working in the printing house where they had the ale boy and they were serving ale to all the workers. So he did write about it, but I'm not aware of him being part of any movement against it.
And at the time, the consumption of alcohol, is it so that Americans actually at that time consumed more alcohol per capita than they do today? That alcohol consumption actually is down compared to, say, 300 years ago?
That's correct.
Right. And how much alcohol did they consume 300 years ago?
I came up on a study of the statistics. It's in the book. I don't recall the exact numbers. But it was very high. I would say it's probably 10 times what it is today. 10
times?
I would say right. 10 times safely, yes.
Right. So people consumed lots of alcohol because alcohol was, I guess, fun, and also I guess was considered a clean beverage, And also, you had no refrigeration, so you couldn't keep food. You didn't have good roads. You couldn't transport grain to market. But you could take that grain and ferment it into alcohol and put it on wooden in kegs and ship it on barges to the cities. So if you were going to expand the territory of Kentucky and Tennessee and all those new colonial areas, which were virgin territory, Ohio, you had all that fantastic land. You could grow fantastic corn and wheat and other crops, but you couldn't get it to market in time as a fresh grain. But you could take that grain and ferment it into alcohol, put it in the kegs, and ship it by barge to the cities. So it was an entire kind of industrial perspective of the time. And so there was a big problem with alcoholism.
Yes.
And so is there anything that you'd like to tell us about Franklin that we haven't covered so far?
Let's see. He believed in exercising, which is, we've all heard the phrase, no pain, no gain.
Mm-hmm.
And as modern as that sounds, it was Benjamin Franklin who coined that famous fitness phrase. And what he said was, there are no gains without pains.
Wow.
And he was a big advocate of exercise. He believed in walking, climbing stairs, getting your blood circulating. And he advocated exercising before every meal, not after, before.
Huh.
Which is that was kind of news. That was news to me, and I said before, And I actually looked into it, did some research on it, and found that he had a good case there for exercising before meals, not after, because when you've had a meal, your body needs the blood to digest that food. It needs to send blood to those organs, to the stomach, to the intestines, to properly digest your food. So you should rest after a meal, but Benjamin Franklin said to exercise before.
Well, actually, that might sound funny to us to hear today, but at the time, once again, it's another example of a progressive health idea that seems radical at the time, and then over a period of time, if the idea is good, it's accepted by the mainstream, it becomes picked up, and it's no longer open to debate. So the whole idea of exercise, there's probably not one person in the United States today who would think, oh, that's not a good idea. But in the 18th century, probably almost no one would exercise really because it was good for you.
Right. Yeah.
It's quite remarkable. And we're speaking with Kelly Wright, the author of The Benjamin Franklin Diet, published by Basic Health Books. And Kelly, when did your book come out?
It came out at the end of October.
Ah, brand new book. Great.
Yeah, it's a brand new book. It's just hit the market.
So where can we get a copy of The Benjamin Franklin Diet?
It's carried at the Barnes & Noble stores. At Books A Million carries it, and you can also get it directly from the publisher. If you go to, there's a website for the book. It's thebenjaminfranklindiet.com.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you,
make sure and put that in there.
That's good. Let me ask you, did Franklin himself have any influence on his peers, such as, Jefferson, George Washington? Did he ever write about his influence with the other influential political figures?
Not that I came across.
Couldn't find any existing letters.
No, I didn't see anything on that particular line. But then I was looking for a certain thing. So.
Well, and didn't Franklin himself, besides his work with food, and obviously his work with, he invented. Well, didn't he start the first hospital in Philadelphia and also the first library?
Yes, he started the first library. He was involved in the hospital. He also started the first fire department that existed in this country. Initially that was a volunteer fire department. And he dabbled in medicine quite a bit, and he was always trying to make improvements in the field of medicine.
What kind of medicines? What were they using then?
Bifocal glasses, for example.
Oh, I see. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, that was one of his better known inventions, and I know he had done some work with catheters. So those are a couple of things I can think of offhand.
And so the reason that we discuss Benjamin Franklin today is because really in colonial America he was an immensely productive and influential person.
Absolutely. In fact, he was one of the biggest celebrities of the day. He was world famous and loved all over the world. Once he was known for his inventions and all these various things, which is why he sort of appointed himself to go over to France to secure the support of the French before the Revolutionary War, because everybody knew him. He was a famous guy. It wasn't that he was a politician. He was a famous man, and he knew that people would accept him with open arms, and they sure did. They loved him in France, and he stayed over there and was quite popular.
For those of you just tuning in today to Here's to Your Health, we're speaking with Kelly Wright, the author of a new book published only a month ago called The Benjamin Franklin Diet. And Kelly, can you please once again tell us the inventions that Benjamin Franklin brought to us?
Oh, okay. Well, he brought to us the bifocal glasses. He did some work with catheters. He invented the library book loaning system.
Really?
The first fire department. He also figured out that electricity was a natural phenomenon and not necessarily an act of God, which at that time was very controversial.
Actually, it was controversial. For example, who invented the lightning rod?
Benjamin Franklin.
Right. And so Franklin invented the lightning rod. Now, would you tell the listeners, please, what does a lightning rod do?
Well, if you have a lightning rod, it's a metal pole on top of a building. You put it up there, and if lightning happens to strike your building, it will strike the tip of the lightning rod instead of your building and burning it down to the ground. And when he came up with it, with that particular invention, there was a church in town that was very, very upset because they wanted to believe that lightning striking a building and burning it down was an act of God. And he said, no, it's a natural phenomenon. We can actually control this, and they refused to put a lightning rod on the church.
Right. So when
we're upset about it.
When Benjamin Franklin invented the lightning rod, which grounded the building so it wouldn't burn down, a number of churches said, no, you can't do that. A lightning strike is an act of God, and they were opposed to the technology of the lightning rod. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
Right. So in retrospect, that seems rather, it might catch us by surprise until we remember 25 years ago when people had problems with their immune system, which we commonly call AIDS, how many churchmen said AIDS is an act of God. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yes. So it's interesting that some things never seem to change. I find that very interesting that some things, that's just the way they are. The particular topic might change slightly, the invention, but the response on the part of various groups and organizations remains remarkably consistent.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah. And what else? What else besides the lightning rod?
The lightning rod. Well, there was a musical instrument called the glass harmonica, and I have not seen one, but I've heard of it. It's something similar to a harmonica.
Wow!
And so he invented this musical instrument. He also wrote about improvements for suggestions on travel when you're traveling by ship, how to improve that. He was a really neat guy. I mean, he would look around at life, and he would see problems, and he would sit down and figure out how to solve these problems and how to make improvements anyway. And he did that consistently throughout his life, and I think that's why he came up with so many inventions and so many innovative ideas.
Well,
he was always observing and looking.
For those of you just tuning in today to Here's to Your Health, we're speaking with the author of the new book, The Benjamin Franklin Diet. The author is Kelly Wright. Kelly, what other books have you written?
I've written a number of books under my name, my other name, which is Kelly Reno. I've written books on health and beauty, on how to make your own cosmetics. I've written a couple of books on small business, and I've also written a series of horror novels based on the Halloween movies. You know, Michael Myers and the
Yes.
And yeah, I write it all. This Benjamin Franklin diet was sort of a personal health project that I embarked on, and it turned into a book.
Well, that sounds very good. That sounds very good. Listen, Kelly Wright, I appreciate very much you calling and speaking to my viewers. We've been chatting with Kelly Wright, author of The Benjamin Franklin Diet. This is Josh Lane for Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Walk, run, climb, play. Solgar number 7 can help. Feel the difference for yourself. Solgar number 7 actually shows improvement in joint comfort within 7 days. Now you can start to get back on track fast and pursue the activities you love. Solgar number 7 is a breakthrough in joint care with no glucosamine and no chondroitin. The advanced bioactives in Solgar number 7 help to increase flexibility, mobility, range of motion, and actually shows improvement within just 7 days. One capsule, once a day, is all you need. When stiff joints occasionally say no, Solgar number 7 says yes. Visit Solgar.com and learn more about Solgar number 7 today. That's www.solgar.com, www.solgar.com. Solgar number 7, official sponsors of Here's to Your Health with Josh Lane and LA Talk Live.
Oh, your skin looks great.
Thank you.
What's your secret?
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence.
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence?
Yes, it's a beauty secret used since the time of the Greeks and Romans. The spa in Malibu told me about frankincense and myrrh by Ancient Essence, and now my skin is lovely.
Well, your skin looks great.
Call Ancient Essence at 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Call 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret. Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Available at fine spas and beauty centers.
Journey Sisters is an organization that embodies and captivates women from all walks of life. Our membership includes 44 women that are constantly growing in the areas of personal development and community involvement. Monthly, we offer free leadership classes at McCade's Restaurant. Journey aims to inform women in the areas of heart disease and HIV and AIDS. Experience the journey now by logging into www.journeymosaicinc.com. Toll free 888-906-5519. Journey with no excuses.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. And now in studio, we have Richard Millard with us, who is a international business person who was in Japan for a long time, a decade, and discovered a device there, which he calls now the Flexxicore passive exerciser, which he found when he experimented with it in Japan was very good for his health. Richard, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you. Happy to have you here.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. And you're from Great Britain.
That's right, yes. I live in England now. I spend a lot of time abroad, but as you said, 10 years of it was in Japan, and the Orient has influenced me quite a lot.
And so your device, what do you call it exactly?
It's the Flexxicore passive exerciser. It's a little machine that sits usually on the floor. It's used in practitioners' clinics, but it's also suitable for use at people's homes. And typically people will have a yoga mat on a carpet and they'll lie down. Their feet will be elevated slightly on a little cradle that sits on the top of the machine. And I think we'll see it in a little bit.
We'll see it in a second, yeah.
What the machine actually does is simply to swing the feet. And that comes out of a tradition in Japan. Long before the machines were invented, they had an awareness that creating this pulsing motion in the area of the pelvis was stimulating our energy system in a very useful way. And it is called in Japan goldfish exercise.
Goldfish exercise.
That's right. If you can imagine the very elegant movement that you see in the back of a goldfish, or indeed any fish that as they swim along, that is the motion that in a way, or oscillation if you like, that happens in the spine of our body when we enjoy this exercise.
I see. It's a lovely reference, isn't it, to the goldfish? It's a very gentle reference. Lovely.
Indeed, yes. In fact, in Japan, as I said, the exercise motion itself was called goldfish exercise way before the machines were invented. And they would do it in two ways, really. There was a teacher who started teaching this method back in the 1920s, and he would teach people to create it themselves by a sort of crawl motion on the floor. And also in therapy such as shiatsu, that's come to the West, is quite well known here now. One of the movements that the therapist will do, typically at the end of a session, is to take the ankles of the person and swing them from side to side, creating that same pulsing motion in the pelvis.
And the thinking is what about this motion?
Well, the Japanese and the Chinese indeed believe that the core of our energy system is down there below the navel. It's called the hara in Japanese, famous from harakiri. That's why they use that part, because that they consider that is the core of their being. And the Chinese call it dantian. If you think of exercises like Tai Chi and Qigong, a lot of use is made of that particular part of our trunk. And in Western terms, the autonomic nervous system is going up through the spine, and that, in our Western terms, if you like, is what is being stimulated by this movement.
And so and some people today in exercise classes, they use the term core quite a lot.
Indeed.
And they kind of borrowed it from this earlier term.
Well, I think all sorts of people are realizing we do have a core which travels up through the spinal column. And in yoga terms, you have the chakras, which are up through there. The Chinese talk about it in a different way, but it's really the core of our nervous system, of our energy, and everything is radiating out from there. And so when you stimulate it, you are actually helping the body to get some of the effects that naturally we get when we do normal exercise. The difference here is that you're lying down, you're making absolutely no effort, and some people, referring back to the conversation that you just had with Kelly Wright and Benjamin Franklin, the term "no pain, no gain."
It's interesting that much earlier term, right?
Yeah, we all know that, and in general terms, we think we need to make effort. But what's happening here, it's very interesting, because the body seems to realize exercise is happening. We know that because the breathing changes as soon as this motion, this oscillation it starts to happen. The breathing naturally changes. So brain, body, nervous system, they're saying, okay, let's have some good quality breath here. And the circulation of blood, lymph, and the energy systems themselves, they are getting stimulated here. And so just a 5 or 10 minute session, people will just be lying there. The machine is doing all the work, but at the end of the session, they will realize they feel quite different.
And this machine, what's it called again?
Well, we call ours the Flexxicore Passive Exerciser. It's been developed over some time. As you mentioned, Japan was the origin of the idea of having a machine that people could use at home. Mm-hmm. There's another strand to the history of our machine, because in Canada back in the 70s, a guy who was working with spinal health invented something called continuous passive motion. And that was much more sophisticated equipment. It was designed for people, with real back problems. And what we have realized working with these machines, I've been involved now for about 10 years, is that as well as the energy benefits, which the Japanese were focused on, there's a lot of benefit in terms of back care. So the Flexxicore has a very gentle starting speed. The original machines that came out of Japan had quite a high fixed speed, just one speed. We've got a variable speed. It starts at a very gentle 80 beats per minute, and you can precisely take the speed up in increments of 1 right up to 160. If you're really fit, a martial arts expert or something like this, you might want to go to the top. But most people will find the starting up to mid-range speeds are where they're getting the benefits. And we, interestingly enough, find that it doesn't make it better to go fast as long as you're getting this pulsing motion down here. Mm-hmm. You've got the business happening. But in terms of back care, you've got a very nice mobilization of the whole back while your body is fully supported. So the interesting combination is of stimulation, as I've been talking about, but also the brain is able to tune into this regular rhythm, realize it doesn't have to do anything at all, and it lets go of the tension that normally we are holding. Typically we go to bed and relax to some extent, but get up in the morning and still there's a lot of aching.
Sure.
There are different ways to release that, but this is a very, very good way. It's very simple, takes a very few minutes, and it's actually very pleasurable. So back care has become, one of the attractions of this exercise.
The machine is called what again?
The Flexxicore Passive Exerciser.
Flexxicore Passive Exerciser. Okay, we're chatting with Richard Millard, who brought it over from Japan, and then of course you updated it and you changed it. Mm-hmm. And we're going to take a short break. Nestor, a sound person, we'll take a short break, and we're going to come back, and Richard's going to show us the machine on camera, and we're going to have our model, Raphael Cohen-Bacry, will be the subject. So we'll be right back, so please stay tuned to Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live.
Hands can do incredible things. This is the sound of 326 hands playing Mozart. This is the sound of 10,942 hands showing appreciation. 64 hands building a house for the homeless. 142 hands swimming a triathlon. 18 hands winning the big game. And this is the sound of 2 hands helping to save a life. It's called hands-only CPR, and it's recommended by the American Heart Association. If an adult suddenly collapses, call 911, then push hard and fast in the center of their chest until help arrives. It's incredibly easy and effective. Hands can do incredible things, but nothing compares to using them to help save a life. Find out more about this latest method of CPR at handsonlycpr.org. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Meet Betsy. She is 29 years old and lives in Los Angeles. Recently, Betsy sent her father an email that brought tears of joy to his eyes. You see, Betsy suffers from autism, and this was the first email she had ever sent to anyone. Betsy is just one of the many students at Empower Tech, a nonprofit organization in Los Angeles that trains persons living with a broad range of physical, cognitive, and developmental disabilities how to use computers to do the things that so many of us take for granted: email, online banking, research, and entertainment. Through modern assistive technology, instructors at Empower Tech help hundreds of people just like Betsy every year. They teach them the basic skills required to function independently in 21st century society. But with new state budget cuts, all of that could change. Empower Tech needs your help if it's going to continue making a difference here in our community. Please visit www.empowertech.org. That's www.empowertech.org to make a secure, tax-deductible contribution and to learn more about this important community resource and to see for yourself what some of the amazing students and teachers do on a daily basis. Betsy and the 1.8 million people living with disabilities in Los Angeles County, thank you for caring enough to show your support. Oh, your skin looks great.
Thank you.
What's your secret?
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence.
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence?
Yes, it's a beauty secret used since the time of the Greeks and Romans. The spa in Malibu told me about frankincense and myrrh by Ancient Essence, and now my skin is lovely.
Well, your skin looks great.
Call Ancient Essence at 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Call 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret. Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Available at fine spas and beauty centers.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. And now Richard Millard, Millard. What's a lovely name. Who actually is really the inventor of this new Flexxicore passive exerciser, is going to be demonstrating it. And we have our stunt woman, Raphael Cohen-Bacry, here today, who's been very good-natured about this and is going to show us how it works. Go ahead, Richard, please.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk Raphael through this, and basically all she's got to do is absolutely nothing. I'll be doing the controls here. Obviously, a person using it for themselves would have the controls by their side. I've just turned it on, and as we can see, there's a very nice, gentle movement there at the feet. I'm just going to suggest that Raphael closes her eyes, because really the secret to enjoying this at its best is to just completely relax and let go. So I will take the speed up a little bit. I'm just taking it up here for the camera, just show you there's a little screen that shows you the speed you're doing, and the dial here takes the speed up.
And Richard, as we increase the speed, is there any additional benefit? Why do you have different speeds?
Well, it's really a matter of we are all very individual. Mm-hmm. The way we design this is to make it suitable for really any age group, any fitness level. And so, it's really up to the individual to experiment and find the speed that resonates for them. In fact, as I take the speed up here for Raphael, I would like to say to her, if she feels, instinctively that she'd like the speed to come down, it's good to let me know, because especially when you start out, it's better not to go over the top of the hill. It's very easy to get excited with it.
And what is the scientific explanation of the benefit of this device?
Well, we don't have a huge amount of scientific evidence per se. We look at experience.
Okay, experience.
And, for example, myself, why did I get interested in it? I had a history of lower back problems. For much of my adult life, I struggled with releasing the tension that tends to build up here, just above the waist in the lower back. And I tried many things, Alexander technique, Feldenkrais technique. Therapists such as osteopaths have always helped me. But when it comes down to it on a daily basis, you want something that you can use in your home to release that energy, which, not energy, but tension. It's the tension which tends to build up depending on our, body use. We have a lot of bad habits, basically, in posture. And tension builds up because of that, in short.
And this device is based on early devices that you bumped into, or that you used, rather, in Japan.
Actually, I was in Japan much earlier in my life. My wife is Japanese, so we still have a lot of connections there. But it was whilst living in England that I was shown one of the early machines that came out of Japan, and I just got into it since then. They are actually manufactured in Taiwan, by the way, these machines that we have, and I've visited the manufacturers many times, and we're working with them to develop it to the point that, we really feel comfortable now with talking about it for back care, as well as I was saying earlier, the energy aspects, better respiration, many benefits in terms of circulation, whether it's blood system, lymph system. And, generally we find that people enjoy it, and perhaps there are several benefits they're getting, which they may or may not be really clear about.
What are those benefits?
Well, circulation. We all know that as we get on in age, circulation and balancing the circulation is something that's really important. If you go back to the Oriental description of things in Chinese medicine, you'll probably be aware they talk of 5 aspects of energy, and very often you'll find that they're out of balance in an adult. Some might be in excess, some might be deficient. And we have worked with people who have equipment that measures those energy factors, and using this for just 5 minutes will balance up those Chinese energy aspects. And interestingly enough, we found that it's not just while the motion is happening, but the benefits actually continue for at least 30 minutes after the session has stopped. So it is on a quite fundamental level that the balancing, stimulating, modulating aspects, if you like, are working.
And you have found on a personal level that the lower back issues you have been helped by your device.
Indeed, yes. I've been using this type of machine for about 10 years now. As I said previously, I had to use all sorts of help to stay erect. At times my back even seized up. But
it's no fun when your back is not cooperating. You're just really, oh my goodness, it's not any fun.
That's right. But since using these things, I've really been able to keep much better back health. And I will give you an example of something that happened just this year. This relates to my use of a laptop. And I had something that was, according to my osteopath, approaching frozen shoulder, which is quite a difficult problem to work with. I went into a downward spiral, and it was very, very difficult to lift my arm. I had shooting pains up my arm, and I had to go to an osteopath for help. So I'm not suggesting to anyone that's listening today that this is a substitute for hands-on treatment when you have a problem. Or indeed, I'm not suggesting it's a substitute for exercise, because it won't build muscle. But what it will do is give the stimulating effects for the system, and it will release tension. And it's in that sense of releasing held tension that it helps with the back. I talked earlier about the Canadian connection, and in the treatment of spinal health, it's very important that fluid is getting in between the discs.
Yes.
And when we start to get old and much more rigid in our spine, that is not happening. So this passive motion, it allows the discs just to have the fluid encouraged in between them. So, it is very important. Now, this is, of course, something that we don't sell as something that will fix your back.
Right.
It's more to do with maintaining back health on a regular basis, and really, a very enjoyable thing to do. I start the day with it because it helps me get alert, ready for the day ahead, and at the same time, in the background, I know it's looking after my back.
Are any sports teams using this device?
Well, it's interesting that people of all fitness levels do like it. It's passive exercise, but I'll give you an example.
And passive exercise meaning what exactly?
Well, it's passive in the sense that the person doing it is just lying there,
yes,
making no effort. And actually, the secret is to do absolutely nothing. The more that you can let go and let the movement happen freely, the better the effects are. But I was just going to mention that one day we were demonstrating at a show where there were some break dancers who were performing at a very, very high level. And the sort of gymnastics those guys do, just extraordinarily fit. But they came over and had a go on this, and they were saying this is just what we need because, of course, tension is something they have to deal with too.
Sure.
And this is really a beautiful antidote to that tension that we tend to build up, and indeed we hold on to it generally if we're not doing something, to really relax.
Yes. Richard, what's the name of this device again?
It's the Flexxicore Passive Exerciser.
And how can people find out more about the Flexxicore Passive Exerciser?
Well, we have a website. It's flexxicore.com. I'll spell it out for you because there are two X's. It's FLEXXICORE. And that's .com.
That's the website?
That's the website, and there is a video there which explains a lot and shows you how it's actually happening in quite an educational way, but lots of information on the website too.
And how's our subject doing?
Okay.
Very relaxed. Okay, good.
There's a very big smile on the face.
Oh, this is good. This is good.
This is very common.
Okay, good. I'm glad that the stunt woman was not injured in this segment. That's very good. That's very good. Richard, once again, give us your contact information to buy and find out more about the Flexxicore Passive Exerciser.
Okay, the website is Flexxicore. That's spelled FLEXXICORE.com. And that's where you can find out all about it and how to actually purchase the item.
Richard, thank you very much. Thank you very much. You've been listening to Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. I'd like to thank our stunt person, Raphael Cohen-Bacry, for being very good-natured. And we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
You are now tuned into LA Talk Live. We're more than just talk. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
Oh, your skin looks great.
Thank you.
What's your secret?
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence.
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence?
Yes, it's a beauty secret used since the time of the Greeks and the Romans. This spa in Malibu told me about frankincense and myrrh by Ancient Essence, and now my skin is lovely.
Yes, your skin looks great.
Call Ancient Essence at 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Call 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret. Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Available at fine spas and beauty centers.
Walk, run, climb, play. Solgar number 7 can help. Feel the difference for yourself. Solgar number 7 actually shows improvement in joint comfort within 7 days. Now you can start to get back on track fast and pursue the activities you love. Solgar number 7 is a breakthrough in joint care with no glucosamine and no chondroitin. The advanced bioactives in Solgar number 7 help to increase flexibility, mobility, range of motion, and actually shows improvement within just 7 days. One capsule, once a day, is all you need. When stiff joints occasionally say no, Solgar number 7 says yes. Visit Solgar.com and learn more about Solgar number 7 today. That's www.solgar.com, www.solgar.com. Solgar number 7, official sponsors of Here's to Your Health with Josh Lane and LA Talk Live.
Hi, this is Susie Pruden. And yes, you've seen me on Oprah, Good Morning America, and The Today Show. And I'm inviting you to join me every Monday from 3 to 4 for my new show, Mastermind Live. Join us as we introduce you to the new thought leaders of the world who will inspire you, support you, and guide you to your next level. So don't forget to tune into Mastermind Live exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hey, are you spending your time or are you wasting your time? Well, kill some time hanging out with Michael Collier, Brooks Jackson, and the whole crew at the Michael Collier Morning Show. I Get Up Late. That's every Tuesday, 3 until 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you don't know what that is, you better get on the internet and look it up. And while you're there, go to latalklive.com and check me out.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. I'm your host, Joshua Lane, and our guest is the stunt woman and registered pharmacist, Raphael Cohen-Bacry.
Hi,
Raphael,
Josh.
hello.
Hi again.
Thank you for being on my show today.
My pleasure.
And Raphael is a pharmacist who is the educator for Boiron homeopathic products. Boiron, possibly the most influential of the homeopathic companies, sold in, 60 countries or 40 countries?
I think
it's everywhere?
It's 80 now.
80 countries.
Yes.
Okay, good. And so you have a spot every month speaking about homeopathy and our good health.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's for the holiday season?
We're in the middle of the holiday season, and I thought we should talk about a few tips so we get we stay healthy, we can enjoy the holiday. For some people it's a little bit stressful or hectic.
Right.
Stressful, maybe it's too strong, but a lot of things to do, either because you want to get ready for the holiday or because it's the end of the year and you're working and you have goals to achieve. So it's a little bit crazy. So that's one thing. We're also going to see, if you're traveling, how to stay healthy. A lot of people take the plane to go and visit family members, so it's very stressful on the body, and also you can catch some viruses that could spoil your whole vacation or holiday. So that's also something we can talk about. And last, all the overindulging we're going to do, that we should do, because it's a time to to celebrate, but sometimes it's a little bit difficult to absorb all that food and drinking, especially coming from France. I know pretty well what I'm talking about.
That's right. People like to indulge themselves in the holiday season.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
So yes, about stress. First of all, like I always like to do, I like to give a few tips, before talking about the wonderful homeopathic medicines we have, because there are things you can do also to help yourself, handle stress and or a little bit of tension easily. First of all, obviously, control your intake of coffee, alcohol, all the stimulants. Sometimes we don't realize, but we drink a lot of coffee. I like coffee, but if I drink too much, I can definitely feel, a little bit more on the edge, or a little bit more irritable. So
you see a drop. You can feel it kind of drops your blood sugar.
Yes, definitely. Mm-hmm. So you might want to control that, especially if you're very sensitive. If you exercise, you're going to get obviously benefit from that. Also exercising regularly during the week. Of course, during the holiday, we tend to, give up a little bit on that. And then in January, the gym is full. And so
that's true. Every year.
Yes,
the same,
yes, every year. I do yoga. That's the only exercise I do. And every year it's the same thing. It's crowded in January, and then little by little, everybody give up except our little group. So it's better to try to exercise, regularly all the time instead of.
What I've observed is we have Halloween, people party in Halloween. Mm-hmm. Then they party Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. Then they party Christmas. Then they party New Year's. And by January, they are repentant.
That's exactly what. Yeah,
so
totally.
They want to shape up a little bit, and they go to the gyms, and they also hit the natural food stores too. Because January, February, March are big months for the gyms and the natural food stores, and every year in all parts of the country, the cycle is the same. Mm-hmm. It's kind of fun.
And then it starts again in May, I think, to get ready to put on your bikini.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's something that can help you definitely, exercising, about the endorphins, and it helps feel you better. And the third thing that we often neglect, and I'm guilty of it, is, do a correct breathing. Most of us, almost all the time, we only do shallow breathing, meaning we only fill up the top part of our lungs.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's just the way it is. And the goal of breathing obviously is getting your oxygen, getting rid of your carbon dioxide and all the toxin. So if you don't breathe correctly, you're not going to get the full benefit of breathing. The other thing, when you do deep breathing, and you can just have like 5 deep breath when you feel a little bit anxious, what it does, first of all, it massages your internal organs, so that's very beneficial. You fill up the whole, the whole lungs, so this is better too. Mm-hmm. And also, I don't want to get into too much details, but our, involuntary nervous system, which is the one that controls, all the digestion, all the function that we don't really think about.
Yes.
Fortunately, we don't have to think about breathing or digesting, but so it has 2 branches. One is called the sympathetic nervous system, and this is the branch that's stimulated when you are stressed. And when you are stressed, you can usually feel your heart rate increasing, perspiration. You also have very tense muscles. And the 2 branches work, hand in hand. So when one is stimulated, the other one doesn't work that much, and the other way around. So the other branch is the parasympathetic nervous system, and it's linked to relaxation and rest. And when you do deep breathing, you're going to stimulate that parasympathetic system. Mm-hmm. So by doing deep breathing, you're going to actually stimulate the relaxation and rest. Sure. So it's a little bit technical, but it's interesting to know that it really has an effect. It's not just because you feel better by breathing more. It's interesting. The way to do it's very easy. When you do the shallow breathing, you see your shoulders go up and down a little bit. And when you do the deep breathing, which is abdominal breathing, you see your stomach inflating and flattens when you breathe. Basically, that's what you do when you lie down. Fortunately, you don't move your shoulders up and down when you sleep, so you can see your stomach, going up and down. So by doing that, I would say, like I said, five deep breaths. When you feel anxious, you really feel a good benefit, and it's a break, which is good too. So, or when you get a nasty phone call, it's also nice to do that. Just try to, and then answer.
Relax a little bit. That's right.
Yeah. So those are tips I think are interesting, and that's also why yoga is focusing on breathing a lot.
Yes.
So, and the great homeopathic medicines we have, particularly the one for stress,
yes,
is called Sedalia, and it's what we call our combination medicines because it combines, Sedalia, like sedation, and it combines several medicines that are targeting stress, restlessness, irritation, uneasiness, all those feelings you have when you're a little bit anxious. The great thing about it, as opposed to almost everything else that's available, first of all, there are not a lot of options, but almost everything that is available has side effects.
I mean drugs.
Drugs, yes. Possible interaction. You can get addicted to some of those medicines. All those won't happen with homeopathic medicines for the reasons we've been talking about for months, because they have no non-side effects, no interactions, non-habit forming, no dependency. So it's very convenient. You can use it if you feel anxious one day or if you're like regularly.
All right, now, because you're a registered pharmacist, and because you have a segment every month, we have to mention this every segment.
Mm-hmm.
So these homeopathic products make specific claims, and they're allowed to make specific claims because they're regulated by the Food and Drug Administration since, I think, 1938 as medicines. Is that not correct?
That is.
Right. So that's why you can say this product is for stress or for joint pain. Right.
Yes.
So these are not herbs, which we can't make claims for, not allowed, but we can make claims for these products. Okay.
Absolutely. And they have a very specific set of regulations. We have to comply with a lot of rules.
Mm-hmm.
We do use herbs and plants, but highly diluted, like everything else we're using.
Mm-hmm.
So it's highly diluted, and that's why we can also claim, that there are no known side effects.
Right.
So
a person could take a medication prescribed by the MDs and use a homeopathic medicine at the same time, and the homeopathic medicine does not interfere or take the place of the pharmaceutical.
This is exactly...
That's important. So
it is very important, even more so. I heard of, I don't know if it's an MD or a pharmacist. I think it's an MD, who used Sedalia to help people who were addicted to benzodiazepine.
Oh, that's nice.
So what he would do,
You said diazepam?
Benzodiazepine.
Okay.
I never know how to say it in English. But so you wouldn't stop the treatment, obviously, because you cannot do that. Otherwise, the rebound effect, people feel worse when you stop it, abruptly. But it would lower little by little the dose of, the benzodiazepine and add Sedalia. And little by little, it would replace the whole treatment, and it had great results. So it's not because it's highly diluted and homeopathic and natural that it doesn't have an effect. It just works differently.
Right, it's kind of a different model of healing.
Totally. It works with your body, not against your body. It's not going to suppress the stress. That's what usually, the medicines do. When you're stressed, they just knock you out. And you feel drowsy or groggy, and you're not stressed anymore. But what are you going to accomplish? Yeah. And
let me just mention this. Since you received your degree as a pharmacist in France, and you're French, in France, these homeopathic medicines are paid for by the state, are they not?
Some of them.
Some of them.
Not the specialty, not the combination medicines. All the blue tubes, I show, they're reimbursed. I don't know. I've left a long time ago. It's not 100%, but it's definitely on our healthcare system.
And I mentioned that just to mention to the listeners of Here's to Your Health that indeed it's widely accepted as a successful, practical, productive remedies. These are just used around the globe, and it's kind of like mainstream, not a big deal.
Yes, and I always want to explain also that in France it's in every single pharmacy and only in pharmacies.
These are sold in pharmacies?
Yes, only exclusively in pharmacies, not health food stores, not supermarkets. And you have to ask the pharmacist to get your medicine, which is very interesting. You cannot just go, in the aisles and grab whatever you think is good. Precisely not because the medicines have any can cause any harm, but because we prefer people to explain what they want to use it for. So, and same thing also, we put an age limit. On Sedalia, it's pretty high. It's 12 years old, and it's
12 and over.
12 and over, and it's not because it would cause any harm to a younger child, but because we think if children have problem with sleeping or stress or anxious, we'd rather have the parents bring them to the doctor. That's the reason why, because here it's OTC. It's over the counter, so we don't want to bypass the pediatrician, or if there's an underlying, cause that we cannot know. So that's very often why we put an age limit. And so I'm just saying that don't get all afraid if your kid who's 10 is going to take Sedalia. It's not going to cause any problem.
Okay, that's good. Some people really do worry. Okay.
Well, because on the other medicines, when there's an age limit, you really have to be careful. But and again, I know we discussed that before, but same thing with the dosage. Most of the time, the dosage is the same for a young kid or for an adult, because we're not fighting anything in the body. It just stimulates the body. So you don't need more for an adult and less for a child.
It's not weight dependent.
It's not weight dependent.
Which is different from medicines, which really could be weight dependent.
Yes. And that's...
and why is that? What's the theory?
Because for like a conventional medicine, most of the time you're fighting something. So antibiotics are going to fight. So you have to give more to someone who's bigger, right?
Yes.
So it gets to your system and fights whatever bug there is. Homeopathy doesn't work like that. It stimulates your body and helps the body to defend itself. So you don't need. It's like sending a message. You don't need a bigger message. It's the same information you're sending to.
That's important for people to understand. Yeah.
And it's difficult. It's difficult for them to. It's at the beginning they don't understand. Why would I give 5 pellets to my husband and still 5 to my little child? But you have to explain but it makes sense when you know how it works.
Yes.
And that's what there is never any risk of overdosage. I always take that example. It's a little bit silly, but it's true. We have people calling us, my kid swallowed the whole, arnica tube, those little pellets.
Yes.
Or also just go get a new tube. So it's...
Yeah, so there's no downside. It's a waste of money because there's no upside.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yes,
there's
totally.
no downside.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think it's very comforting for parents who have to leave their children with, babysitters or at the daycare, because there's no worry. Even if the babysitter didn't pay attention and give the dose twice, nothing is going to happen. As opposed to regular
That's good
medicine.
to know. And that's called Sedalia.
So that's our Sedalia. Yeah. So it's a combination medicines. It's medicine. It's easy because you don't have to really think about your exact symptoms. You just take it.
Just for stress.
Just for stress. Stress, even sleeplessness if it's related to stress. And I just want to.
And what are the homeopathic remedies in there?
So there are. I think it's 6. You want me to, because
are they
it's
important
Latin.
to know? Are they well known?
No, except for belladonna and calendula. Those are well known, but here they're not used for what we know them to be used for. So it's not very. They're all plant extract, and they come. So in that package, they come in tablets, and those tablets are you don't swallow them. You just put them in your mouth, you let them dissolve.
And they dissolve in 2 or 3 minutes?
Not even, like 10 seconds. Just a little bit sweet. I like those medicines in the plain because you know how difficult it is sometimes to get a glass of water.
These days, yes, it is.
Yes, it is, especially before takeoff, right? And if you feel, a lot of people are scared of flying. And I think it seems not very important, but I think it is. When you cannot swallow your medicine and so you're going to delay the effect. This is very simple. You just put it in your mouth, melts in, I think 10 seconds, really, really quickly.
An adult needs how many of those?
You always take 2-3 times a day.
2-3 times a day.
If you feel really anxious, you can take it more often. If you don't take it. It's not like a treatment. You take it when you need it.
What kind of on an as-needed basis?
As-needed basis. It's also good for long-term stress, but of course it's going to take a little longer if you have been stressed for a long time.
Alrighty.
So that's our combination,
Okay.
Sedalia. And as always, you can also choose the other option, which is taking single medicines. And single medicine, this is not the right one, but it looks the same. It's
Those
like
are the so-called blue tube.
Blue tube with only one medicine in it.
Right.
And it's just a way to be a little bit more accurate in your need. And for example, that's a medicine I really like. It's called gelsemium. It's the yellow jasmine.
What's it called?
Gelsemium. It's Latin for yellow jasmine. And it's very well known to relieve a lot of that stress, anxiety, stage fright. It's excellent for stage fright. Also very good for people who are scared of flying. That's also something you can use. Or I don't know, you're gonna go over to your in-laws for Christmas and you don't get along very well. You have that anxiety before. It relaxes you, but you stay yourself. You're still alert and you can function totally. You don't even feel the effect of the medicine. You just feel yourself again. I recommend, for example, for let's say a flight, you have to take the plane and you're kind of anxious about it. You take 5 pellets of the gelsemium the night before. You take it again the morning of, and in the plane, when they're getting you ready to take off, you take 5 more. Again, no overdosage. So if it's a long flight and you still feel, a little bit nervous, take 5 more, and landing is difficult for you, 5 more pellets under your tongue. It really works really well.
All right. What was the name of that again?
So gelsemium.
Okay.
And there are several medicines for stress, obviously, but this one, it's very typical of people who are like blanking. They don't even know their name or their gait or
oh boy, yeah.
See, they're not agitated, they're more frozen. They need to go to the bathroom, they need to pee often, right before, okay, we're gonna board, that's when you need to go to the bathroom.
That of course is really just emotional.
It's totally emotional, yeah, like the little kid who has to go to the dentist and that's when he needs to go to the bathroom. Very typical. Headaches, often headaches, and really that blanking feeling that you don't know where you are, and that's going to be a very good indication that gelsemium is going to help you. And it's great, if you can have a more pleasant flight.
Sure. So do you sell a lot of gelsemium?
Yes, yeah, we do. So it's we have a lot of blue tubes. Over 1,000, I think. But the most frequently prescribed are maybe 100, 150. And, the top 10 of those are obviously arnica, and gelsemium is one of those.
Okay.
So that's also a good solution. Again, there are other medicines. If you have a physician who's trained in homeopathy, he might prescribe you something else. So makes sense. It's not always the one I'm mentioning.
There are other choices.
There are other choices depending on your symptoms and the way you show your stress. But this is one of the most common, I would say.
I've never actually heard that term blanking before.
It's not. It's not
it's
right?
a great term. Oh, it's great. Oh no, it
exactly
hits it right on the head. It's great. I'm going to use it now. I like it. It's good. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if it's a translation from French, but not. It just seems right.
No, it's exactly right. No, the blanking. Yeah, it's a good term. Good for you. You should write a newspaper article about that.
Yeah.
That's good.
And maybe we can carry on about the flight, staying healthy.
Certainly. Yeah. Sure.
This is one of my topics because I don't really like flying anymore. I have to, obviously, but it's not enjoyable anymore. And if I can...
It's less fun now with all the taking your shoes off and all that other stuff. Yeah,
and it's so small, and I don't know. It's not very pleasant. But anyway, we all have to go through that at least a few times a year. So... Just to there are a lot of things we can talk about homeopathy helping you when you're taking a plane, the earache. It's a wide topic, but let's talk about because it's also the cold season and there are a lot of people sneezing and coughing in the plane, the flu. We don't want to get that. So just a few recommendations. Apparently, I don't know. I was always told by people who work in the airlines, the air is absolutely pure in the plane. It's not the feeling I have, but I don't know.
No,
it's filtered. It's wonderful. It's better than outside. I said, okay, but you
don't they? It is filtered, of course.
EPA,
but
EPA
they in effort to save fuel, they turn it down a little bit so that really the air is not good. And the air, people have been complaining about that for at least 30 years, I believe. It's not a new complaint.
No, it's not. And, I looked it up, and there isn't a clear answer. It's very controversial.
Right.
I don't know if when I sit in the back of the plane, I can feel, I can smell gasoline, actually, before it takes off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but maybe because it's the bag, but it's in the bag. But my recommendation: try to sit in the front of the aircraft, because apparently the air is better. Yes.
Okay.
That's why they put first class.
Oh, it's true. Okay, thank you. That's right. I should have known that, but okay, yes, thank you.
Maybe we shouldn't tell everybody, but
I did not know. All right.
If you can, it's a little bit better. I'm just talking about the air. I don't know about other, factors, but for the air, it seems to be a little bit better in the front of the aircraft. Open your air vent, especially if someone is coughing next to you. Wipe everything. Wipe your hands before you eat. Wipe your tray table. Another tip also, don't put stuff, especially food, in the back pocket, because I saw people stuffing their
Kleenexes.
And it's never clean. I think nobody takes. So little tips like that. Then personally, what I do, I take vitamin C, at least a gram, the day before and the day off and the next day, and along with our flu medicine, the oscillococcinum.
How do you pronounce that again?
Oscillococcinum. We all say oscillo. It's for flu and flu-like symptoms. It's not going to prevent the flu, but because it works better when you catch it really early, if you take it a few times during the flight, you might you increase your chances of catching the nipping in the bug. That's what we're trying to do, doing it like that. So 1 dose every 6 hours for the duration of the trip. And usually
1 dose of 1 tube?
Yes. Yeah, those are little tiny doses.
Oh, I see. Ernesto, we seeing these on camera?
So the Arnica pellet, those are tiny.
Oh, yes,
and you take the whole thing. You don't put I'm just doing that to show you. You don't have to empty it under your tongue.
Right.
And again, it takes 2 minutes, a little bit longer. And along with the vitamin C,
and how do you pronounce this again?
Oscillococcinum.
And this is about the most popular product that Boiron has.
This is number one, or number one medicine.
Colds and
for flu-like symptoms. We call it flu-like symptoms because it covers a lot of different symptoms. It doesn't have to be the actual flu virus to be effective. It's the same medicine every year, so we don't change it according to the virus.
Now let's say I'm sick right now. I'm sick. I don't feel good. I'm already sick, and I start taking how do I pronounce this?
Oscillococcinum.
And I do 1 tube right now. Will I feel a little better in 10 minutes? So that's a tough question, I guess. But will I feel when I feel better during the day?
It's a good question because actually when you take the right medicine, it works really fast.
Okay.
10 minutes, maybe it's a little bit, I would say within an hour or two.
All right. So because people need to know, okay, if I take this, because it's out of my realm of expertise, why am I taking it? What will it do for me and when? So you'd say in a couple hours, if I felt a little under the weather and I took the Oslo, I would think, oh, no, I feel a little better. Okay.
No, it's good to ask that because, like I said earlier, with those medicines, you don't feel the effect of the medicines except feeling better. So you have to be very conscious of what's going on in your body, otherwise you don't know. So I would say 2 hours because we say 1 dose every 6 hours. So after 2 hours, you should feel better, a little bit better, a little improvement. And after 6 hours, either you feel fine and you don't take a second dose, or you still need it and you take another dose. When you take it really early, sometimes 1 dose is enough. Otherwise, you might need 2, 3, sometimes 2 days. But it depends on the virus. It depends on your general health and at what stage you catch it.
So let's say a person is already sick. And they have what they think is a cold or a flu. Maybe they're not quite sure whether they have a cold or the flu. And they begin to use the oscillococcinum. And they take 1 tube, say, every couple of hours. Will they actually feel think, oh, I'm kind of over this in 2 or 3 days, possibly?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it doesn't prevent you from taking, vitamin C, or if you have if ever you need antibiotics and your doctor prescribes it, it won't interact with your celecoxanum. It won't change, any kind of symptoms that your doctor might need to establish the diagnosis. That's
okay. So I can take vitamin C or I can take medicine, and it's no problem using the homeopathic products as well.
No, on the contrary.
Good.
And like you were talking about France, it's very frequent in France to have on the same prescription, conventional, I don't really like that word, but the medicines we're used to, and homeopathic medicines. Like, we said last time, you take antibiotics and you're going to have GI symptoms.
Right.
You can take one of our medicines to really help with that.
Great.
So they work very well together. It's not one or the other. It shouldn't be.
For those of you just tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health, we're speaking with Raphael Cohen-Bacry, registered pharmacist, who is the educator for Boiron homeopathic products, and we're talking about homeopathic items we can use for the holiday season. We've talked about stress. We're talking about colds and flu. What else have you got?
So for people who are going to eat a little bit too much, or
kind of the big partying eating. Okay, yes. What do you have?
Well, it's not only eating too much. I think it's also food we're not necessarily used to, or too rich and too much at the same time.
Rich eating too much cake? Is that rich food? Or is it too much beef?
Yeah,
just too much.
Just too rich. Too rich.
I think most of us understand the term too rich. It's a loose term, but it could be meat, it could be alcohol, it could be cake, it could be any of that.
Well, it's out of the usual. That's the problem. We're eating too much of everything in a very short period of time. That's also the problem, with not a lot of break. But some people are doing fine with it, and others are more sensitive.
Yes.
So there are different options. There's one single medicine that's very popular. It's getting more and more popular. It's called Nux vomica.
Nux vomica.
Nux vomica. It's Latin for the poison nut.
The poison nut.
Which is poisonous, obviously, but once it goes through our, system of dilution and manufacturing, the homeopathic medicine is totally harmless.
Right. Nux vomica.
Nux vomica, the poison.
Improves digestion.
It works on the digestion. It works on many other things too, but specifically digestion. Irritability is also another indication. But it's mainly for people who tend to eat too much. If you have a digestive problem and you eat a carrot and a yogurt, it's not going to help. I mean, if that's your regular diet and you just have a poor digestion, this is not going to help you. This is for the big eater, regular big eater, or just occasional for the holiday. Also for
in other words, the fellow eating the 32-ounce piece of steak
and the wine and cake and
I'm not sure anyone still does that whole 32-ounce piece of steak business. But I remember when I was a boy,
too expensive.
Men and women, when they would go out with other couples, that the men would eat large monster pieces of meat, and that seems to have fallen out of fashion. I don't think anyone's really doing that anymore. Even prize fighters before an event don't do that anymore, I don't think.
We know better.
Yeah.
Actually, I went to Colorado 2 or 3 years ago. It was really nice. It was for a very nice convention, but we went to a restaurant at night and we ordered, they ordered for me. I had no idea. What do you call bison?
Bison.
I think it was bigger than my plate,
and
it turned me off right away. Just the size of it was too. It was actually pretty good, although I don't know. I didn't like it too.
But you could have eaten a tenth as much and would have been just as happy. Is that it? And the whole thing was just kind of a waste, too much.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
But so maybe some people still do it in other states, maybe.
Right.
But
right.
here, no, it's more tofu.
That's right. A little bit lighter here. Yeah, I was actually just speaking broadly, because in general, things do change. I mean, people's ideas of everything change, and people's ideas of wellness have certainly changed
tremendously
for the better. For the better, right?
Well, we're more educated. I think. Yeah, we had no idea, and we were talking about that with my parents last night. We were talking about what we were used to eat, especially them as children after the war, when food became more available again. But they had no idea. It was just very rich. But they had no idea it was bad. They thought it was a good thing,
right.
That being a little bit chubby was good.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Well, after the war, you
could afford food, and so you were chubby, right?
Yeah.
I gotcha. Kind of a status symbol.
Totally. But no, it's different. But anyway, if you do eat too much and if you drink too much, Nux vomica is a wonderful medicine. We even you can even take it for hangover, which I don't recommend. But if you're gonna have a hangover, or let's say if you know you're gonna drink a little bit too much at dinner, take Nux vomica 5 pellets. It's always 5 pellets under your tongue. You take it before you go to dinner. You take it before you go to bed, and the next morning, and that really helps with you recover better.
Oh, good.
So it doesn't change anything if you're not going to be able to drive. If you
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
It's just for the recovery, better recovery.
Just feel less sickly.
Yes. And same thing for overeating. It's going to help. It speeds up the digestion. That's what it does. It's excellent for acid indigestion, all the symptoms related to overeating. It's an excellent medicine that I like a lot. And we have what we call a combination medicine, which is called Acidyl, and it has Nux vomica in the formulation, and other medicines for bloating, again acid indigestion, heartburn. So it's also a very convenient medicine to have with you. Also, when you travel, again, you don't need water. It's the same principle as
I can take these without water. I can if I wish.
You don't need to take water. Yeah, it dissolves in, it melts, the tablets melt in your mouth in 10 seconds. So it's also a very good medicine for upset stomach, or if you feel that acid reflux. But it doesn't work like the regular antacid that we're used to, that kind of neutralize the acid in your stomach. It doesn't work like that at all. Right. It gets in your system. Again, you don't swallow it, so it penetrates under your tongue. It
doesn't suppress stomach acid. It does not. Right.
No, it helps you. Again, it helps your body to cure itself almost. So it's not gonna counterbalance the acid in your stomach.
And there's Nux vomica in that one as well?
Yes. Yeah, it's one of the main medicine for indigestion. And
so you think Nux vomica is really, people should try to remember that one?
No. Definitely, yes. Yeah. Or, if they're not, you can carry Acidyl with you. It covers more symptoms. But this one is really, it's really for overeating. So that's why I really like Nux vomica. I would definitely remember this one. Right. And you can find it pretty much everywhere. All Whole Foods carry it. Most health food stores carry it, so it's an easy one.
Nux vomica.
And if you don't know and you say, I want the homeopathic medicine for hangover, or the clerks, they probably used it before. So no, excellent combination also.
And these Boiron homeopathic products, I buy them at Whole Foods, I buy them at Lassen's, I buy them at the food co-op in LA. I mean, everybody carries them. Mother's Market in Orange County, everybody carries them.
Yes. Henry's, Sprouts.
Sprouts, right.
We have a few pharmacy chains like Pharmaca, Capital Drugs. They have a few stores. It's pretty easy. You also, if you're in different area and you don't really know where to find them, there's if you go on our website, which is www.boironusa.com.
Could you spell that for us?
It's B as in boy, OIRON as in Nancy, USA.com, and there's a store finder. So I think you key in your zip code, and it tells you, or you can call. There's also 800 number that you can call, and they tell you where the products are distributed. It's getting really, really easy to find them. It used to be a little bit challenging when I started, but it's growing pretty fast, and so it's not very difficult to find. And some doctors also carry the medicines more and more.
That's good.
Well, especially because the blue tubes, like I always say, it's better to start early on. So if your doctor, your physician has it here handy, it's better because you can start as soon as you get out of the office, as opposed to take your car, go to a store, and
right. It's easier.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
And if they're out, they're gonna order it for you, so it's a little bit easier. It's becoming more common too.
And also, a lot of physicians who are doing elective surgery, say facial procedure or whatever, they recommend arnica to bring down swelling. So we saw a lot of that in the LA territory.
Swelling and bruises.
Yeah, right.
Yes, and you have to take it before the surgery and after the surgery, so it's going to be at least 2 or 3 tubes per patient. And they also use it for injection of when they do Botox or the fillers.
Right.
So you use a little bit less, but it's definitely It's very
No, it's
mainstream.
widely used now.
Yes,
widely used. The MDs seem to have recognized the value of the arnica, and they tell the patients, no, use this. The patients say, no, doctor said recommend this, and they have written down, and so many of them had never heard of it before. But oh no, I see it. It's an important item in the LA territory.
And again, they really appreciate the fact that it doesn't interact with everything, because usually when you go, for surgery, they tell you stop everything. You stop your supplement. They don't even want to know what you're taking. They just say you stop everything. But the arnica you can take, and you don't need water also, so you're not supposed to drink before surgeries. So it's very convenient. I have some plastic surgeons in Beverly Hills that a few of them told me that they wouldn't operate on a patient if the patient said, oh, I didn't take my arnica.
Oh, really?
So no, why would I do that? You're going to have more bruises, and my job is going to look less good.
Right.
It's not all of them, but some of them are very adamant about it. Yes.
Well, that's nice to hear. That's very nice to hear, Raphael. We're chatting with Raphael Cohen-Bacry, the registered pharmacist, the educator for Boiron homeopathic products, about homeopathic items that we can use for the holiday season to get through the holidays, have fun, and get through them successfully. So how about a little wrap-up on the emotional aspect there? Is it not Sedalia? It's Sedalia.
Sedalia.
Sedalia, let's see. It's kind of tomato, Sedalia. And
well, you shouldn't rely on my accent too much.
No, it sounds very good. I like the way it sounds. So Sedalia helps me relax, flying, etc. And no grogginess, doesn't bother my stomach.
No, you stay alert. You can do everything you need to do, but you just feel, more confident, more yourself. I think it's the right term to use, because it's you don't have that irritation or even the fatigue sometimes that you get when you're very stressed. That's going to be taken care of by Sedalia. So it's one that when I go to doctors and I explain about mainly all the cold and flu medicine right now, cough, cold and flu, and I always ask the staff, is there something you need? No, I'm healthy, I'm okay. I said, you're not stressed? Oh, of course I'm stressed. Yes, of course, we're all stressed. Who isn't? And I always have a few samples, and they just love. They call me back,
And they're impressed that actually worked.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And again, it's so easy. I don't like to recommend medicine. Even when I was in France, I don't like to give advice about medicines without the patient going to see I'm not a physician. I don't know what's going on. So I'm very, except if it's my real close family members, I usually don't give advice. But homeopathy I do, because there's no risk, and people feel the benefit. And it's not expensive. Like Sedalia box maybe $10.20, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, they are very inexpensive, aren't they?
And
they
it's
really
60 tablets, so it takes you a long way. So that's very pleasant to recommend, actually.
I think so too. We've been speaking with Raphael Cohen-Bacry, a registered pharmacist, educator for Boiron homeopathic products. Boiron. Raphael, thank you for being a guest.
Thank you.
Thank you
for having me.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Starlet Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for a new show right here on LA Talk Live, The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Walk, run, climb, play. Solgar number 7 can help. Feel the difference for yourself. Solgar number 7 actually shows improvement in joint comfort within 7 days. Now you can start to get back on track fast and pursue the activities you love. Solgar number 7 is a breakthrough in joint care with no glucosamine and no chondroitin. The advanced bioactives in Solgar number 7 help to increase flexibility, mobility, range of motion, and actually shows improvement within just 7 days. One capsule, once a day, is all you need. When stiff joints occasionally say no, Solgar number 7 says yes. Visit Solgar.com and learn more about Solgar number 7 today. That's www.solgar.com, www.solgar.com. Solgar number 7, official sponsors of Here's to Your Health with Josh Lane and LA Talk Live.
Oh, your skin looks great.
Thank you.
What's your secret?
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence.
Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence?
Yes, it's a beauty secret used since the time of the Greeks and Romans. The spa in Malibu told me about frankincense and myrrh by Ancient Essence, and now my skin is lovely.
Well, your skin looks great.
Call Ancient Essence at 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Call 1-800-627-9813. Discover the secret. Frankincense and myrrh oil by Ancient Essence. Discover the secret of beautiful skin. Available at fine spas and beauty centers.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health. I'm your host, Joshua Lane, and you're listening to us today on the LA Talk Live radio network. My guest is Linda Miles, a doctor of Oriental medicine. Linda, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Happy to have you here today. And Linda works as an educator for Derma E, and they do healthy cosmetics?
Correct. We are the leader in natural body care products, and I actually am the formulator for these particular products.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yes.
That's very nice.
So, I mean, our whole thing is that we do formulate for results, and we choose ingredients, much like your prior guest, we choose ingredients that are extremely important for specific skin conditions, whether it be anti-aging or whether it be actual problems like psoriasis and eczema.
And so Derma E, it's a natural foods cosmetics company.
Correct. We're sold in about 65 countries, and we're in Sprouts and Whole Foods and all of the other natural product stores that you would see here in the LA or across the country area.
And how long has Derma E been around?
Since 1984.
Oh, wow.
We're one of the last Yes, we are. We're one of the last family-owned and operated companies.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's very nice.
So we were talking about the holidays in your prior segment, and so I was just going to quickly give your listeners some additional tips for the holidays. Yes. We were talking about flying, and I was really excited to see Bottom Line, which is a mass book, actually give the recommendation that if you take a little bit of tea tree oil and put it in your hand in the airports and when you're sitting on the plane with all those people sneezing and coughing around you, rub it together and then inhale the the oil, that you can actually cut down on the colds and flu that you might catch.
Using tea tree oil.
Tea tree oil is antibacterial, antifungal, and there are some studies to indicate that it could be antiviral as well. So there's a very good trick for trying to stay healthy during this holiday season.
That is a good tip. And people kind of know tea tree oil now. It's kind of approaching mainstream status, I think.
Almost. I mean, at least they do know that it's excellent for most fungal infections.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing that little kids tend to get a lot of during the holidays because there's so many people sharing toys and stuff. So, ringworm, all of those fungal infections. Tea tree is the great natural alternative to those specific conditions.
Tea tree for ringworm.
Absolutely.
And ringworm happens, unfortunately, it's not a terribly delightful disease when your kids come home with ringworm. It's just
Yeah, but it's around. I mean, it's just it's part of life. So, and the particular product that you have, the Skin Biotics that you're holding in your hand, is a blend of tea tree and oregano oil. And those two ingredients together are extremely powerful. And in fact, both of the ingredients have been shown to be effective against MRSA, or meth-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. So very, very powerful antibacterial cream. Highly recommend it for, people a lot of times will get some sort of skin condition, and it could be scaly, itchy, it could be maybe a tiny lesion, something that they just look at and they go, gee, I just don't know what this is, but I want it gone.
Right.
That particular product will work 90% of the time.
It's a tea tree oil oregano combination.
Right. It's called Skin Biotics, and it's available in most of those places that we have already talked about. It's really a fantastic product, not only to be used for an existing problem, but you could use it as a hand cream and it would work prophylactically.
I see.
So it's really, really, it's like first aid kit in a jar.
And so let's just go back to ringworm, which, it happens. So as far as you're concerned, as a practitioner of wellness, you think that tea tree oil is just like kind of the thing you like to recommend for ringworm. It's safe. I mean, other things might work, but tea tree oil is completely safe and works.
Absolutely. It's completely safe and it works, and it works much more gently and just as effective as most of the over-the-counter antifungal medications that do have some side effects occasionally. So again, that's the beauty to natural. Most of the time we're working with the body's own healing responses, and they tend to work better.
And again, you do the formulations for Derma E.
Correct. I am the formulator for our products, and we do formulate for results. So again, even within, we were going to talk a little bit more, I think, about winter skin, holiday skin, and what tips we could do to brighten the skin and make it look great for all those parties we want to go to.
Okay, that seems great. So now everyone wants to have great skin, right?
Right, absolutely.
So now winter skin and holiday skin, those are different, right? I mean, holiday skin from like...
Holiday skin is just a tad bit more stressed than winter skin. Winter skin suffers from dehydration for the most part. We're in and out of heaters, or in the car we're in the heaters, and then because it's wintertime, we may not be drinking as much water as we did in the summertime. So we're not hydrating ourselves from the inside, but we also need to make sure that we keep the skin hydrated. So you want to use a good moisturizer, and you want to make sure that possibly you even layer your skincare much like we would layer clothes. And so maybe you want to use a serum as your first layer, because serums are very, very therapeutic, and you can layer a moisturizer over the serum.
Okay, so what serum do you recommend?
I recommend, depending upon what exact treatment that you're looking for. For wintertime, I would highly recommend our hyaluronic acid serum, and then we have a cream, and we have a day cream and a night cream as well. In addition, we have the cleanser, toner, etc.
All so these within are hyaluronic.
Right. It's hyaluronic, and the reason hyaluronic acid.
How do you pronounce that?
Hyaluronic acid. The reason that's so effective as a moisturizer or hydration agent, it's nature's moisture magnet. It holds 1,000 times its weight in water. And by holding the moisture next to the skin, you plump the skin, smoothing out fine lines and wrinkles, and adding back that moisture that we've probably lost during this time frame. Another quick trick is to exfoliate the skin. When our skin becomes dry or stressed, it isn't exfoliating at the normal rate. All of us do that normally, but when we're out of balance, that process slows down. So a quick fix for skincare is to exfoliate. Our microdermabrasion scrub is a salon quality scrub that can be used in the convenience of your own home.
And exfoliation means what again?
It means to remove the dead skin cells that are in the process of dying and leaving the top layer of the skin. So by exfoliating, again, you're removing the dead, dying skin cells, revealing plump, younger, healthy-looking skin cells. Again, skin looks great, fine lines are smoothed out, so you've accomplished a great deal towards looking very, very healthy and young looking just by doing a good quality scrub.
Well, that sounds good.
Yeah.
That sounds good. So let's go back to the layering aspect.
Okay.
So it's we're gonna go to a party.
Right.
We want to look good.
Right.
So the hyaluronic acid you recommend, is that it? You recommend?
Yeah, the hyaluronic acid. However, the layering is an everyday routine.
Oh, I see.
If you're just going to go to a party, then I would suggest that you use a good quality moisture, and then you're going to put on makeup. Okay.
Right.
But your skincare regimen before you go to the party is equally as important, because you want to make sure that you put on your makeup over a moisturizer, because you don't want the makeup to be absorbed into the pores. And when you get home from that party, you want to make sure you cleanse and tone to remove all that makeup, because the skin is the largest organ system in the body. It has specific functions. It's got to take care of our thermoregulation, remove waste, and keep pathogens out. For it to do that, it has to be healthy, and we have to help it by taking good care of it. So very important that we work together with our skin so that we're as healthy as possible. Also, the skin is an exterior reflection of our inner health.
Yes.
And so if we're not doing all the right things for our health, like drink plenty of water, get sleep at night. Your former guest talked about stress. I'm a huge stress person. I mean, you've got to reduce stress. In my clinic, I would say that most of the conditions I see have a stress component to them.
Sure.
So it's extremely important in Western society that we recognize how big an issue stress is and work to reduce it. Another thing that people don't realize is by being stressed, we're damaging our skin. And the reason is because you have the two stress hormones, catecholamine and cortisol, that break down into free radicals. So we're actually attacking ourselves from free radicals from the inside out. So very important to use a good quality antioxidant in your everyday skincare. Such as pycnogenol, green tea. There's a DMAE, alpha lipoic C ester product.
You have those.
Affirming.
You actually
Absolutely.
Have, so we're talking about the Derma E company has a combination such as that.
We have all those combinations. And unfortunately, I didn't bring the products, and so I would invite your guests to go to www.dermae.com and look at all the different combinations of products. They will also find a library of ingredient information there. There's also great tips on how to take care of skincare. There's a blog that's attached to that with more skincare tips. So that's a very good resource for skincare.
Let's go back to things like, for example, green tea. You mean to tell me that you can add that to your skincare as opposed to drinking green tea, which is obviously good for us, and that we could absorb it that way, and the green tea is actually very good for the skin? You've seen that?
Oh, we've absolutely seen that. In fact, there's a bunch of clinical research to show that. Let me tell you something that Dr. Lester Packer at UC Berkeley Lab did a tremendous amount of research. And
that was Lester Packer.
Dr. Lester Packer at UC Berkeley Lab, and he did a tremendous amount of research that showed that the skin prefers to have its vitamins and nutrients delivered topically. So while while it's important that for the rest of our body we consume supplements and make sure that they're all in the bloodstream, our skin prefers to have its dose of vitamins and minerals topically delivered. So that's why your skincare is extremely important, to have the correct nutrients and vitamins and minerals that are specific for your problem. Like you and I are older, we need to have things that are going to help with sun damage. So we want those antioxidants, and we want green tea, and we want alpha lipoic acid, for example. And there's a whole array of different ingredients for different issues. There's a set of ingredients for, say, brown spots, liver spots, age spots, which is another condition that people have frequent issues with. So in that particular case, you would look for ingredients like alpha-arbutin, bearberry, niacinamide, licorice, milk thistle, vitamin C. So there's a whole group of vitamins and minerals for every specific skincare condition.
Wow, that's really very impressive. So again, you're the formulator for Derma E, and you've been around since '84.
The company's been around since '84, correct.
So you've been around for a very, very long time. What was your first product?
Our first product was our vitamin E cream, and that's how we got the name Derma E.
Oh, I see.
Because it actually came, that was where it came from, was the vitamin E. Vitamin E is the father of antioxidants.
Right.
It was the very first ingredient that was recognized to have significant antioxidant activity, and we blended it in a cream. So it was our vitamin E cream.
And vitamin E is still great, isn't it?
Oh, it's still fantastic.
Right.
It's one of the best ingredients for cracked, dry skin or just severely dry skin. Vitamin E is an excellent healing agent, moisturizer, and lubricant. Wonderful ingredient.
Wow, far out. We've been chatting with Linda Miles, a doctor of Oriental medicine, who is the formulator for the Derma E healing cosmetics product. Is that a good way to put it?
That's
healing
a pretty
cosmetics?
good way.
How do you describe it?
We call it the natural skincare solutions. And the reason we use the solutions is, again, we are formulating for specific skincare problems, whether it be wrinkles, brown spots, like I say, psoriasis, eczema. We have products for scars. We have an excellent product called Scar Gel, which diminishes the appearance of scars.
Oh, yeah, what's in that? What's in the Scar Gel?
It's an allantoin and panthenol blend along with allicin. The allicin, the onion extract, is in there because it's a tiny bit antibacterial.
Mm-hmm.
And so if somebody has a fresh scar, we want to make sure there's some antibacterial activity there, but we really don't recommend using the Scar Gel until the scab's fallen off. But this product will take an old keloid, any scar that's lumpy, bumpy, or discolored, it'll take and it'll smooth it out and make it blend in with the surrounding tissue. The allantoin and panthenol are keratolytic. They break down scar tissue, but then they also have a complementary and opposite function in that they encourage healthy tissue growth. So by doing that, it makes that scar tissue smooth and blend in with the surrounding tissue. It takes 2 to 6 months. These are not quick fixes. But
that's okay, no, because you have to understand. So what's the name of that product?
That's called Scar Gel. That one's an easy one, Scar Gel.
Scar Gel. And so if someone has an older wound,
Mm-hmm.
like a keloid?
Like an ugly old keloid.
Okay, so your product in, say, 2 to 6 months can give them a noticeable improvement in the quality.
Absolutely.
Now, 2 to 6 months, actually, from my perspective, obviously is a reasonably short time. Because it's not a drug, it's not going to kick in 2 minutes. But in 2 to 6 months, we can see an improvement on the skin of an old, say, wound or whatever. In 2 to 6 months, that actually seems very, very pretty quick.
It is quick, except that it depends upon, again, the tissue damage that's already done, right? And if you have an old keloid, you're going to look at the full 6 months. If you have a brand new injury, you could get by with the 2 months. I unfortunately tripped over my Rottweiler. I have 22 stitches in my forehead.
Oh, boy.
And I only used the product for 2 months, and as you can tell, there's no scar there whatsoever.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, the product is very fantastic. Also great for burns, which we cannot put on the package because burns are a medical condition.
Yes.
And that would make it a drug. But this is a fantastic product for burns, whether they be chemical or UV exposure, sunburns, and for those of you who are into it, tattoos. Wonderful after tattoo care.
Okay, that's very good. Okay, very good.
Something different, right?
That is very different. Very good. Linda Miles of Derma E products. Thank you for being a guest today on Here's to Your Health.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for listening today. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health. I'm your host, Joshua Lane, and you've been listening to us today on the LA Talk Live Radio Network.
For more information about the guests and sponsors of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, please call us at 818-707-0005.